Bob Coppedge here, the Crotchety Old Geek, returning. Here's what I want to talk about this time. There are two factors that go into the successful implementation of any kind of project, but especially for IT. Because one of the things you're trying to do is you're trying to make change. You're trying to improve operations, processes, procedures, blah, 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 blah. And you're trying to do so with a whole bunch of users, usually. And there's two things that, yeah, you can get into all of the milestones, the goals, the objectives, all that good fun stuff. And yes, that's meaningful. But there's two issues you absolutely 100% have to pay attention to. And if you don't follow through on these, the chance of failure rise significantly. All right? WIFM and NIMBY. All right? IT, we love our acronyms. These, unfortunately, are 4- and 5-letter acronyms, so they're not actually the 3-letter acronyms or TLAs that we usually like. Let's first talk about WIFM. What's in it for me? If you don't have a good answer to that question as to why a new user of whatever new solution or improvement or whatever you're doing, it doesn't matter how justified it is to the company, how much it's going to help somebody down the application pipeline, the end user or the person is not going to be interested. In other words, if you come up with a sales system that by implementing the sales system, the salespeople aren't going to be benefited by using it, but gosh, the sales manager and the executives and the manufacturing and the warehouse people are going to love it. Salespeople aren't going to do it. Why? Because there's nothing in it for them. So you have to have, from a cultural standpoint, in order for them to even remotely accept change, you have to have something in it that's going to make their lives easier. Because otherwise, why should they bother? And so, with them. And actually call it out. Call it what it is. Here's the WIFM for these users. Here's the WIFM for this organization, for this group. If you can't identify why their lives are going to be made better, then why should they be interested? The other one is kind of the flip side of that. NIMBY. Not in my backyard. You know, we hear about it all the time where somebody wants this new feature or this new thing that's introduced to make society better. We want to do recycling. We want to have more prisons. We want more power plants, but not within a 100-mile radius of me. Same thing is here. If you're going to have some kind of impact that could be perceived as a negative impact, we're going to add a second layer of logins in order to be more secure. People aren't going to want to do it. They're not going to want to have this additional change, this additional complication to their lives and how they do things. Doesn't matter, again, how much benefit you're getting. So unless you give them a positive, they're not going to be interested. And God forbid you give them a negative, they're not going to be interested. Now, some cases you can't help it. You are going to introduce a negative, or you can't have a positive. Recognize that. Come up with something else. Give them a reason why this is going to be a good thing. And it actually could even be recognition. It could be candy, for crying out loud. It can be whatever. But don't ignore it. Just as similarly, if you're going to be creating a negative, don't ignore that. Say, yeah, you guys are getting a bit hosed on this one. We realize that and we appreciate it. But to ignore WIFM and NIMBY is to ignore the human element of what you're introducing to the organization, namely change. We talk about change management. We talk about change budgeting. We talk about documenting, about justifying, all that kind of thing. But don't forget the human element. WIFM and NIMBY. That will help you plenty. This is Bob Coppedge, Crotchety Old Geek. Catch you later.